While the Ukrainians in the north are celebrating their victory in the battle for Lyman and clearing the newly liberated territories, the Ukrainians in the south have launched a massive counterattack and have reportedly achieved significant success. After an unbreakable losing streak, Russian media sources decided to hold back bold predictions and are in unison saying that the situation in the south is very tough. It is very hard to make another conclusion because, in one day, their front line reportedly collapsed by almost 30 kilometers. If this is true, this is the most successful Ukrainian attack in the history of this war. Yesterday at night, the Ukrainians started to storm Russian positions in the northern part of the Kherson region. The targets of their attack became Lyubymivka and Khreschenivka. This is also confirmed by Russian sources, which indicates that my previous assessment of the situation was partially correct. Based on the NASA firm's data, I concluded the front line goes to the south of Khreschenivka, but it went to the north of it. In any case, this still confirms that the Ukrainians retained their positions in Petrivka and Leninske, despite Russian claims that they were taken into a pocket and destroyed. Russian sources reported that the Russians managed to spot the Ukrainians on time and received considerable reinforcement from the reserves, engaged their artillery and repelled the attack. However, already in the morning, it became clear the fight was not over and that it was developing in favor of the Ukrainians. It turned out that the Ukrainians prepared a heavily equipped fist consisting of several tank battalions and several infantry battalions, and they were ready for a long and brutal fight. Soon a supporting attack was launched in the direction of Zolota Bacha. This means that the Ukrainians previously lost control over this town since there were some confirmations that they took it at first. In any case, this attack was successful, and the Ukrainians managed to this town. After that, the intensity of the fight seemed to have decreased, and the front line stabilized on the line Novovoskresensk-Shevchenkivka. At 6 a.m., the Russians decided to conduct a rotation of their forces in Mykolivka, when the Ukrainians suddenly launched a massive attack. It turned out the Ukrainians had increased the concentration of their forces on this line of attack because, in the previous hours, they had identified that this was a weak spot. It is clear that, at first, the Ukrainians aimed to take Novovoskresensk because it is the key town in the northern part of this region. However, they were willing to adjust their tactic because of the potential gains in the Dudcheny direction. They attacked Mykolivka at 6 a.m., and by noon they had already collapsed the front line by another 10 kilometers. The evening reports suggest that they did not stop here and several hours ago took Dudcheny. Now, Dudcheny is located 30 kilometers to the south of the Ukrainian initial positions yesterday. This puts the Russians in a terrible position because all of their positions will find themselves at a crossfire one by one. As you can see, there are around 2 dozen of small settlements in between, and most of the space around them is empty. Ukrainian attack from several sides has very high chances of collapsing the northern group extremely fast. This is perfect timing for the attack on Davydiv Brid and the nearby settlements. The Russians cannot devote too many reserves to that region right now because the northern front is collapsing. So, Russian artillery will be fully focused on stopping the further expansion of Ukrainian tank battalions, which opens a window for an attack in the central part of the region. Those who are watching my channel on a regular basis can see that this is exactly what I was predicting around a month ago, an attack from the north and center that collapses the northern group from within and forces the Russians in Arkhangelsk and Velika Oleksandrivka to surrender because they will be completely surrounded. If you are against the invasion of Ukraine and want to support the work that I am doing, consider making a purchase in the online store UA Supporter. Here you can find a lot of products with Ukrainian symbols, to not only show your support for this channel, but also for Ukraine.